guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm doing my first Top 5 Wednesday, and it is a group that was created by Ginger Reads Lainey, who I will link down below. Today's topic for Top 5 Wednesday is Top 5 Underrated Books. So without further ado, let's dive in. So my first book hardly counts. It's a New York Times bestseller, but I included it in this list because it's not really talked about that much in the booktube community, and that might be because it's several years old, and not really a genre that many people talk about in this community. And the book is The Glass Castle by Janette Walls. I read this book several years ago, and it's a memoir about Janette Walls' life, and honestly, it's insane. Like, you can't believe as you're reading it that this is her life. It's crazy, and it's so good. I'm just gonna read the back for you guys, and let me know down below if you've read this book, and if so, what you think. The Glass Castle is a remarkable memoir of resilience and redemption, and a revelatory look into a family at once deeply dysfunctional and uniquely vibrant. When sober, Janette's brilliant and charismatic father captured his children's imagination, teaching them physics, geology, and how to embrace life fearlessly. But when he drank, he was dishonest and destructive. Her mother was a free spirit who abhorred the idea of domesticity and didn't want the responsibility of raising a family. The Walls children learned to take care of themselves. They fed, clothed, and protected one another, and eventually found their way to New York. Their parents followed them, choosing to be homeless even as their children prospered. The Glass Castle is truly astonishing, a memoir permeated by the intense love of a peculiar but loyal family. The second book on my list is Queen of the Tearling by Erika Johansen. And I've read this book. I haven't read the sequel yet, but I own it, so it's on my list. But yeah, I read this book and I really enjoyed it. I thought that it was fun, it was captivating, I liked the characters. I wasn't necessarily blown away to the point of like it changed my life, but I really enjoyed it. It's a fun fantasy. The characters are really great, and the setting of this book is really interesting, and the way that she does magic is also really interesting. So if you're looking for a fantasy with a genuinely strong female character who is strong both in character and, you know, in some way she's strong physically, then I think you'll really enjoy this book. My third book on the list I don't actually own. I borrowed it from a friend, but it is Ender's Shadow by Orson Scott Card. A lot of people have read the Ender's Game series, and it's a really great series. I haven't finished it. I read the first book, but Ender's Shadow is a spin-off of that book, following Bean, who is a character in Ender's Game, and it's told from his perspective. And honestly, I thought it was better than Ender's Game, which I actually, like, I loved the first book, Ender's Game, so I didn't think going into Ender's Shadow that I would enjoy it more than Ender's Game, and somehow I did. Like, Ender's Shadow is just really good. Bean's character is so interesting, and it's really interesting to see his perspective on everything, because when you're reading Ender's Game, you know, it's very much in Ender's head, and he's the leader, so it's interesting taking a step back from that and reading Bean's perspective. So I really enjoyed that novel. The next one on my list is The Scorpio Races by Maggie Steifvater. I don't ever see this book being talked about ever, which I find really odd because I really enjoyed this book when I read it. That being said, I read it a couple years ago, so I'm not sure if it stands up because my tastes have changed quite a bit over the years. But when I did read this book, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. And that may be because I love horses. I'm such a horse girl. So that could be a huge part of it, because this book is about horses. It's set in this land where horses, basically flesh-eating horses, come out of the sea in November, hence Scorpio. And there's this race. It's very epic. I love the characters. Also, this book has my favorite character name possibly ever. The name is Sean Kendrick. And for some reason, I just love that name. I think it rolls off the tongue so easily. Sean Kendrick. It has such a nice ring to it. I don't know, I love it. I love the name. And so it follows Puck and Sean, and it's very, very good. Or at least I remember it to be very good, so I would recommend it, I think. And the last book that is on my list is Blood Red Road, which is possibly my favorite book ever. I love this book so much, and it just has a special place in my heart. And I feel like it's not actually been talked about by a lot of people. Like, not that many people have read it. It did do really well as far as reviews go originally, and I think it might be a New York Times bestseller, but I'm not sure on that. And I feel like not a lot of people have heard of it, which makes me so sad because this book is so, so good. And I will be doing a review on it sometime. I've read it like 5 times. I have to do a review on it. It's like my favorite book. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to read the back of the book for you guys and tell you a little bit about it. Basically convince you why you need to read this book. To escape, she will have to fight. To survive, she will have to lead. Saba's world is shattered when her twin brother Lou is captured by 4 cloaked horsemen. Determined to rescue him, Saba sets off into the lawless, wasted landscape left behind by the wreckers. It's a brutal world where Saba discovers some surprising things about herself. She's a fierce fighter, a cunning opponent, and above all, an unbeatable survivor. Teamed up with a handsome daredevil named Jack and a gang of girl warriors called the Freehawks, Saba's off to save her brother and maybe her whole world. Guys, just read this book. Honestly, don't expect too much. Like, it's just a really fun action adventure, but the characters in this book are just so amazing and so rich and so wonderful, and I love Saba. And yeah, this book just has a special place in my heart, so I would highly recommend it, and it is #1 on my list of underrated books. So that is all. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed my first Top 5 Wednesday. Make sure to check out the Goodreads group that I will link down below, and if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. See you next time!